for burying her brother? Does a man ignore the shouts of his people because it might undermine his authority? What happened to you? Zero evidence. I remember the arms that would pick me up, tell me everything would be okay, that there was a meaning to this world. And all the pain of growing up, all the terror of the dark nights had a purpose. What happened to you? Was it me? Was I wrong? Were you always this scared, scrawny thing with no real ideals beyond a balanced budget and enough police? Was I wrong?
Yes. Yes, you were. Sorry.
What will you do, Creon?
I will have her taken to that tomb cut into the cliffside. Since burial is so important to her, I will bury her there alive.
You would have her starve to death in a cold, dark tomb.
The law must be abided.
Alone.
Yes. Outside of the people and their cameras, no body to rally the rebels, no gunshot to startle them into action.
Alone.
She will waste away in the dark like the ideas she spread.
Alone.
And there, praying to Hades, the only god she really worships, she will find release in death, or learn too late it is a lost labor to revere the dead.
Too cowardly for the dinner than is.
Too cruel for prison or pardon.
Creon seeks to hide her shame,
To seal her niece up away from the world.
to starve alone in the tomb. Imagine the darkness.
Imagine the cold.
Imagine the hunger. Not bad at first.
But as days lengthen,
In that sunless cell,
The hunger grows.
consumes and swallows.
The hunger is your sun and moon.
The hunger is your soul companion.
so it is with all brave people.
They are entombed.
Away from the easy life, they are consumed.
By the hunger of desires denied.
To change the world,
The cost is great, but Antigone is willing to pay it.
we must each be willing to pay it.
Sometime.
I should have stopped Antigone.
I should have stopped Creon.
What could you have done? Yell, scream, punch her in the face? Would that have changed anything?
I could have done it at least. I just stood there, powerless. Antigone was able to stop her.
She hasn't stopped her. She stood up to her, and now she's going to die. Polynices is unburied again. Nothing has changed.
Everything's changed. Can't you feel it? The revolt Polynices couldn't bring about Creon brought upon herself.
I should have helped her.
What?
She asked me to help her, and I said no. I said no. Why did I say no? If I hadn't said no, maybe Creon would have relented. She wouldn't dare kill both of the last children of Oedipus.
She wouldn't care.
She would, though. It would look bad on TV.
So cold. So cold I can't feel my arms, or maybe that's the hunger. I haven't eaten since before I buried him. I can't tell them apart anymore. The cold, the hunger, the darkness.
We both could have done more.
I didn't think she'd go through with it.
I knew Creon would go through with it. I've seen her do worse. She doesn't look like a monster, but that's the worst thing about her.
We're both powerless.
Yes. Or no. No, that's wrong.
We could have saved her, and we didn't.
But we're not powerless. We still have power.
How?
We can keep talking, calling out against my mother, against...
No, don't you see? I don't care about any of that. I don't.
They will come for me soon. They've kept me in this prison, but soon the sun will rise, and they will take me to the tomb, and they will seal up the stone door, and the hunger will overtake me.
What do you mean Antigone's going to die for these ideas?
I don't care. I don't care about who's right and who's wrong and what the gods say or don't say. I want my sister.
If we can't save her, we can make sure her ideas live on.
I don't care about her ideas. I want her. Antigone, how could you be so heartless?
They took me there to the tomb to see it in a police van. They wanted to frighten me. I'm frightened. I want nothing more than to bang on the door and call the guards and agree to their demands, but I can't. It will be all for nothing if I do.
Heartless?
Don't you see? All the justice in the world can't bring her back, and that is the most unjust thing of all.
He'll never know how much I loved him. I was going to spend the rest of my life with him. He didn't know it, but I was. I was ready.
They're going to take her at dawn. I heard the guards.
Where? Where are they going to do it?
Do it?
I don't think I can watch, but I have to be there.
Watch?
When they shoot her.
They're not going to shoot her. Didn't you hear?
What do you mean?
Creon was afraid it would encourage revolt.
What are they going to do?
All the things that were going to happen. in the future. 2 days ago, I was planning we'd go to college and get married.
Ismene?
And then we would go somewhere far away from here, away from our families, and we'd be happy. All the happiness I was going to have 2 days ago.
Ismene, what are they going to do?
You can't stop them.
What are they going to do?
They're going to take her at dawn and seal her in a tomb on the cliffs outside the city.
Alive? They're going to bury her alive.
I thought you knew.
No, that's horrible.
I heard the guards. They're all over the palace.
We can't let them.
There's nothing we can do.
What do you mean?
Leon has all the power.
Does she?
All the men, all the guns, that's what power means.
You just said. We said we should have done more. Could have done more. And now there's a chance for us to do something and you're saying no.
They'll shoot us.
So?
It won't change anything. Just like Antigone, we'll go and we'll get killed and they'll still take her away. There will just be more people dead and no one saved.
Maybe, or where are they taking her?
Why?
Maybe I can't free her, but there's something I can do.
Haman, don't be an idiot. Don't be like her.
Where are they taking her?
Tell me what you're planning.
So you can try and stop me, like you did at Antigone. How well did that work out, Ismene?
Was it worth it? I wonder. Was it worth it?
You said you should have helped her. You said it might have made a difference, so help me.
Won't matter.
It might.
But probably not.
Those are the most cowardly words I've ever heard. Probably not. Not that I'll fail. Not that I'll be killed. Not that I can't change things, but probably not. What is wrong with you?
Was it worth it? I don't know. Probably not.
2 miles outside of Thebes, south of the highway, there's a cliff. There's a cave there, and it was used as a tomb hundreds, maybe thousands of years ago. The door is made of stone. That's where they're taking her.
The sun is rising. That means it's time. They'll take me now.
It's time then. It's time.
It's time.
In a tragedy, there comes a time when the trap must be sprung.
There is no escaping it.
That's what tragedy is. In a tragedy, the horror takes place.
Off stage.
Lest it be too horrible.
And it falls to us,
The messengers.
The messengers. The messengers.
the messengers, to bring back the news
Of catastrophe. They were using bricks to seal the tomb. They led her in at gunpoint. She staggered from the hunger. Then they began to seal the opening. There was a small group there, police, a news crew. No crowds. Creon was there. She looked pale, paler than usual. The woman spread thin. Then the screaming started.
from inside the tomb. But it wasn't Antigone's voice, it was Haman's. He must have snuck in at dawn to wait for his beloved. When she heard the screams and the sobs, Creon snapped. She ordered for the bricks to be taken down and then started tearing at the walls herself with her bare hands.
Inside the tomb, Antigone swayed back and forth, hanging from the ceiling, with a cord cutting into the blue flesh of her neck.
And at her feet, crumpled and wailing like an animal, was Haman. He had been inside the tomb to die with his beloved, but she took her life first. That is when he saw Creon.
He dove at Creon, never looking more like an animal then. Threw her back against the wall of the cave. The workers and police stood outside. They did not try to help Creon.
Creon was wearing her full dress uniform with the braid and the white gloves, and that nickel service pistol was at her side, loaded and ready as it always was.
And in his rage, Haman grabbed the pistol, aimed it at his mother, who froze first and slumped, as if she accepted her fate.
But it was not so easy. Not for her. No, he turned the gun around, his eyes never leaving his mother's, and he shot his brains out in front of her.
But tragedy must end in catastrophe.
That is the purpose of the machine.
But catastrophe is not death.
Death is too easy, too common. Death comes to all of us.
Creon
catastrophe is the worst thing.
The thing that must not happen.
The realization that
Everything you wanted is ruined.
Everything pure is corrupted.
Everything safe is destroyed.
and it's all your own fault.
How merciful would it have been,
For Haman to kill Creon.
But that would have denied her.
The catastrophe she had earned.
and the revolt
Should have followed. The news spread fast. By dawn, the streets were full.
of protesters and flags
Within 2 days,
Creon found herself prey.
to Zeus, Athena, Dionysus.
it was too late.
But it was not.
The will of the gods alone.
That caused this catastrophe.
It never is.
Their instrument was
A 16-year-old girl.
Not a special girl. Her sister was smarter.
her boyfriend was kinder.
But a girl who knew.
The truth is like gold
And must be treasured.
And protected.
and fought for.
And if it is, it will last.
Truth will last eternally.
It will not rust nor tarnish.
It will gleam for 2,000 years.
And then 2,000 more. Tomorrow. And the day after.
Next
and the day
week,
after.
and the week after, and the week
Next
after,
year,
and the week after,
the day after.
Tomorrow,
The day
and
after.
next
The
week,
day after.
and next year.
The day after.
And tomorrow,
The day after.
and next
And the
week,
day after.
and next year.
And the day after.
And tomorrow,
The day after.
and next
And the day
week,
after. And the day after.
and the
The
day
day
after.
after. And the day after.
Does anybody have any questions at all? Come on, I promise they won't bite you. Go ahead.
So I have a very practical question. So hi, my name is Ian. I wrote the adaptation.
This is the guy who put on
I have like my notebook, like things, cut that, change that, oh, that, but just practically speaking, what was effective? Like, are there images or moments that as a performer were effective in this? It's like, oh, that was a really fun line to say, or that was a fun moment to have. What worked for you on stage? And then were there other moments it's like, I never quite figured out what this line meant or what happened in this thing, and could you please cut that?
Well, it was very fun to play with lines that were like, I just tweeted about thieves, you know, because like no one has ever said that before. So it was really fun to, you know, kind of take something that's very historic and add things that everyone can relate to, and not just Grecian old people.
If I can add something, it was interesting using your script to make Creon a woman, because in your script you originally wrote Creon as a man, and so it was interesting the things that we had to cut and things that we had to add in order to make that possible.
Yeah.
Although I liked, I was actually thinking of this, like, oh, I like the mother-daughter relationship. I like the name sort of more, but it's like, okay, Sophocles is already going to be angry at me.
Go to playwriting heaven and meet him.
It's great. Yeah. I think my favorite line in the whole show to say was probably, I'm not interested in greatness and I won't have it someday, because she'd basically given up by that point, so it was a lot of like, these are things that I want to say, and you're not going to listen to me because I'm a teenager, so like, this is it. There's no like consequence, or I'm not going to get like a timeout or suspension after this. Like, it's done. And I think that was, I don't know, it was my favorite line to say.
I would say my favorite line is definitely the messenger, because it just shows the vividness and like the imagery of the tragedy, and it just really just puts in perspective. I would have to say, until this day, I never like imagined just how bad it was in my head until I actually listened to it, and it's just like not amazing, but I guess the word amazing to like listen to the vividness of it.
What I thought was a important line throughout the thing was Haman's breakdown scene in front of Creon, where he's just going at it, letting loose, saying, I don't want to do what you're doing. I'm going to go and save my girlfriend. I don't care what you say. I'm doing what I think is right. I thought that was a very important scene for Haman.
I wasn't one of the performers, but I did want to say, so I stage managed the show, but I did want to say teenager and the irony of it. It's one of Antigone's lines, all the teenagers with their cell phones and ideals. It's one of my favorite lines in the piece.
I really like the idea that when Creon's like, you'll be dead and you can't do anything, but she's like, but it's truth and truth is eternal. Because that's like the main theme of the whole show, and I think that those two lines really like sum that up in a really great way. You wrote that amazingly. So, I agree.
You can speak.
I really enjoyed the Haman Ismene Antigone scene. I thought it was really cool because you saw how one person was dealing, the person that caused the whole thing was dealing with it, and then you saw the people in the aftermath of it, and I thought that was a really important scene because, like, I get she's not really the one who has to deal with it. It's going to be the people that are left.
Well, that was the thing, is Sophocles doesn't have that scene. Sophocles has a scene with Tiresias, like the blind prophet from Oedipus Rex, as like, okay, but we don't know you, and we know these people, and maybe you should open her mouth again.
If anybody else has questions, they're totally up for it.
Oh yeah.
So everybody had their own truth, and everybody thought their truth was the truth. So nobody was actually wrong. They all believed their own truth and
That's
fought
right,
for
Mama.
their-
It was interesting to see, because when I read the show, it was like the Sophocles version of the show, all of the roles were very defined. Like, Antigone was going to be the protagonist, and like Creon was going to be the antagonist, and Ismene was going to be there to like just info drop in the beginning and then get out of the way, because she's not there for most of the show. And then like Haman is like there, but I like never really, I don't know, he just wasn't my eye wasn't drawn to him as I was reading it, I guess. And it was so cool because the show was less about like, the dynamic was cool, but it was like the dynamic between characters was set up in such a way that no one was right. And so everyone kind of walks out with, I thought this person was right, or I thought that person was right, or I thought that truth was more important than the other truth, or it's just more like contemplative, I guess. It's not as cut in stone. So I thought that was cool.
Thought-provoking.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
In rehearsal, were there any mishaps during the big slap scene?
No.
I just stood 5 feet away from her every time because I didn't want to hit her.
Sammy loves me, and so Sammy didn't want to hurt me. So we started with like a nap. For those who like don't know stage combat, a nap is where you do it like on your chest, and it's just a little thump. And then we were like, well, like that's not really working, and it sounds like she got punched instead of slapped. So and then we went down to like the hand clapping, and it just worked better. But I think until like 2 or 3 days ago, we were still
Jamie
like,
was like, if you think that you're gonna be too far away, I want you to just slap me. I just go for it. I was like, I still love you. It'll be fine. Do that.
Yeah, I forgot how to clap a few times. It's hard. Yeah. Stage combat is hard. Don't do it.
over there.
So hi, I'm Jamie's sister, but I've been to a lot of plays with her in it, but I've got to say this is probably the best one so far. Mostly because I love you, Sammy, but I really want to just tackle you. Y'all were just so compelling, and it like brought my anxiety up through the roof, and it was such a great, very emotional to the person who's watching. And I think y'all did a great job, Sammy. I've never been more terrified of you. Thank you. I don't know the Haven, but you were great as well. So, this is called. This is called.
There was someone else over there.
Yeah. As you came into this experience, and now that you're past it, how has that changed your perspective on where you're going to go with acting, or are you going to go anywhere with acting? How has the experience changed you?
Acting is painful, but I'm up for it. That's what I'm
Like, I'm going to Western Carolina in the fall, and I'm going to major in forensic anthropology, but like I'm like, dang, I really like theater. And so it's you know, I think that it's definitely something that I'm gonna have to think about continuing, but you know, not sure if I'm gonna shift my entire life focus.
It's like hecka empowering. It's also super stressful. Like we get here at 10 in the morning and we do this for 3 weeks and we leave at 4 and then go home and eat and sleep and then come back the next day and that's all we do for like 3 weeks. But I think that it's kind of awesome because the program has done it with Shakespeare and now with like a modern take on a classical show, and like we produce like a pretty bomb diggity show in 3 weeks. So like that's too much. But like if we can do this as like performers and get into the heads of people, and like it's going to be intensive, but if we can do it in 3 weeks, then we can do it in like, I don't know, like a black box theater in 8 weeks, or like a proscenium theater in like, I don't know, like 2 months. But it's really empowering.
I learned that my mom spends too much money on me for me to not do this.
I learned like so much, and coming here I was like, oh, acting, I mean essentially it's like playing pretend like for a living. And so but there is so much that I learned in 3 weeks, and I just learned that there's like so much more to learn, and there's so much more to acting like there is with everything. It might look easy on the surface, but there's so much more to just anything that you want to do.
Out of all of the fine arts, I would definitely say that acting is the most important because you use it in all 3 of them. Even when you're singing or you're dancing, if you don't have acting as a basis, then it's not gonna look good, and you're not gonna. And this is kind of like, I do a lot of musicals, and I really enjoy musical theater, and I also really enjoy just straight plays because I think that it goes back to the basics and back to bringing it out the character and whatever character you're portraying.
As like, I didn't act for this, I was the assistant director for this, and I've been going through a weird artistic time in my life where I'm like, do I want to act or direct? And I keep like being like, I want to do this, I want to do that, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that ever, oh, never again. And just working with like playing games and doing the exercises with them has like helped me just remember I do enjoy acting and it's not the most painful thing in my life. And then it's been a really weird but fun time acting as a kind of teacher and director person, even though I'm not like full-on teacher and director. And I definitely want to like try and get more into the teaching side of things. So that's, yes.
So,
No.
So, I'm curious your perspective as teenagers. This play obviously has a lot of content that relates to politics and leadership and stuff that is actually going on in the world around us right now. And I'm kind of wondering whether doing this play has changed anything about the way you listen or don't listen to what's going on in politics in America right now.
There's actually a very strange moment the other day. I was on my cell phone looking through the news, and I was talking with Magdalene, and I saw it was a news story about a young man who'd been killed, and we both just had a moment of like, wow, this is really sad. And Magdalene was like, this is exactly like in the play when they read about Antigone, and it was very strange. It's almost surreal of like, we're very disconnected a lot of the time through the ways we experience other people's tragedies, and just being able to like talk to other people about it is something that I want to try to do more, and like be able to get out there more and help other people who've been experiencing things like that, because like we are very disconnected because of the way we experience these things.
I also, another thing that is probably my favorite part of this being in a modern setting is the idea of like starting a revolution on Twitter and sending out words of protest. And it's like, Antigone has a speech where she says that teenagers, they live in the world too, and they love and hate and die just like adults do. And that kind of just resonated with me a lot, because I'm just like, as a teenager, you often are like told, you're just a teenager, or you're just a kid. Or you'll know better when you grow up. And it's just like, well, no, we can know now, and we can change things now. Like, we're all about to be able to vote or have voted in this recent primary elections and are going to vote in November or support a candidate in November maybe. And that's just like, yeah, we're here too, and we can do things too, just like anyone else in the world.
Something that the Creons kind of discovered in their character studies is that, yeah, Creon seems like the bad guy in the show, but she's doing what she has to do as a leader. And, I mean, although it's killing a teenager for wanting to do what she believes is right, it's still her. But it's still like she's doing this because this is her job, and so yeah, that's just something that kind of we all realized.
I found a connection with one of Creon's speeches, like teenagers so full of ideals. Like ideals are one of the things that makes our world so progressive, and young people and the ideals that we have before, like as a leader, Creon kind of has ideals kind of beaten down. Like she's just so tired of everything, like the war, the rebellion, everything, and so it's interesting how teenagers really do fuel.
It was very weird to be a teenager playing the teenagers.
Yeah.
Like, It was also really cool because I don't know if anyone's coming back for the other show. You should. But it was cool in rehearsal to see my Antigone because I'm 18 and Susanna's Antigone. And my Antigone, like every time we ran it, just felt a little more mature. Like we were like, we can get her to be 16, right? Right? Like we can get her. And I was like, there's some things I can do that like I would not do as a human, like a lot of things. But like die for my beliefs is not on the top of my list. But it was cool to see like Susanna be like, this is something that I connect to on like as my age, and this is something that I connect to in the same character as like at my age, and it was just like really cool and double perspective. Yeah.
I think it was really interesting to be able to play a character that had been through such a like even if you look back to Oedipus and all the other plays before this one, so much has happened to this family, and it's very interesting because acting always gives you a new perspective on things, and I think looking at it through Ismini's eyes was very interesting because she was saying, listen, please don't do this, please don't do this, and then she went and did it, and then you got to see the perspective at the end where she was just like, well, she did it, now I've got nothing, and so I think it's interesting playing different perspectives.
Yeah, and I thought what me and Cassidy talked about a lot as being with the two Isminis as we were deconstructing the script is that Ismini, like everything that happened to Antigone, like all of the heartbreak and the tragedy that made her this way also happened to Ismini, and they turned out complete opposite. And so I think that's really interesting to look at that and then think about how it relates to like in the real world with as social justice movements become more prominent in social media and on the internet and with teenagers, how it's really a two-sided perspective, like even within our generation, with the Isminis and the Antigones, even though we both grew up in the same time period and with the same things going on around us, we completely, like a lot of people turned out completely